Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Aiden, from Cartoon Apocalypse, and welcome back to another Turner Tuesday. Now, today is a bit of an interesting episode. So in the stream, we did three main things, and then we did a couple extra things at the end. But the three main things that we did was we went through Niko's final design, we went through some logo fan art, and then the main thing is we went through this plot base that we had designed in the Discord. And that's why this video is so long, because going through the whole base, the whole plot basically, it took so long. So that's why this video is the longest video of them all. Now the only things in this video is actually Niko and the entire plot thing. So if you want to check out the fan art, you're going to have to go back to the stream. And there will be time codes down in the comments below because there's just a lot to digest with this video. So if you can't make it to the streams and you're only watching this video should contain most of the stuff. The extra stuff that I said that we talked about at the end, there's only a couple little things I'll mention probably in the next video, so you'll be caught up on that. And speaking of the next video / next stream, we're actually going to be building Luna's world next stream, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And for the time being, unless otherwise stated, I will be streaming every single Sunday at 1:30 p.m. EST to 3:30 p.m. EST. So same time, every week, every same day, every Sunday. So make sure you try to make it there. As always, if you haven't joined the Discord, highly recommend it down in the description below. But yeah, this first little segment here is going to be about Niko's final design, so check him out. So, Niko is looking awesome. What did I just do? Niko is looking awesome. I love the way Niko looks. This is what Niko looks like, and I think he is amazing. He looks so good. Don't you think? Remember how we said that Niko was this daredevil character and he would be like he wants to be a hero. He's like an anti-hero. That's what we talked about last week. And so our idea is, well, if he wants to be this sort of hero guy, he's gonna need a costume, right? So he kind of like cosplays all the time and it looks awesome. So I think this yeah, Irish eyes. Yep, he's got some bluish green eyes and they look awesome. So thanks so much, Raw Lunix, for putting this together. We were talking about having different masks, and I still kind of want to have different full mask designs, but I'm thinking for his main mask that he wears all the time, these orange stripes are like LED lights, so we can change the color. But I also want him to have multiple different like kinds of masks anyway, because I don't know, that just seems like a cool quirky thing. If he carries around a bag full of a bunch of different masks, he can wear just any kind of mask he wants, and I think that's awesome. Here is the animated GIF version. So next we have this whole ginormous plot section here. Now, I'm not going to be breaking up each little segment like this because it's pretty much just, you know, in the video, or I guess in the stream, you'll see that each little segment has its own little title. So you should know going into each new segment what it is, but I will have time codes for each segment down in the comments below, so go check those out. But yeah, this first plot thing is the backstory, and then we go on to the how the notebooks work, then Blake and his wife, and then Luna and Niko, and then finally magic. So that's sort of the whole breakdown of this entire thing. So yeah, go check out the plot. Okay, so page turner plot. We have got a lot to go through. Look at how big this is. Look at how much stuff is in this document. So, there was once a time where Earth and the fantasy world lived in conjunction. There was one chosen one on each of the worlds. These chosen ones had notebooks to communicate with each other between the worlds. So let me paint this picture for you guys, right? We have got Earth and we've got this fantasy world, right? We've got one person on each of these who has a notebook, and their job is to communicate through the notebook, sort of keep these two worlds in a parallel path, helping each other out. So like, for example, if we were relating this to today, Earth has technology, so then they would help the fantasy world get like cell phones and whatnot, except for, I'll explain sort of why that is not actually a thing. So that was their goal. Their duty was to make the worlds a better place. The two chosen ones were bonded together, so as long as they are both alive, they don't age. So as long as they're both alive, so like you have two chosen ones, as long as they're both alive, you do not age. You stay the same age when you inherit the notebooks. So if I'm 30 when I get a notebook, and I'm like the chosen one, then I stay 30 until I pass on the notebook. That's how it goes. So they can take as much time as they need to fix their worlds or whatever. This passing of the notebook occurred for thousands of years, and just it was this huge thing that everybody knew about. The current fantasy chosen one is a king, and he often got into arguments with his human partner. So the fantasy world guy, he was the king, and then he had his other partner on Earth, but then they fought, and just they weren't a very good match for each other. Eventually, the king, the fantasy world guy, killed off his partner. So now we only have this king, and he's got both notebooks because he went over and took the other notebook, right? And so you have this king on the fantasy world, and he's continuing to age, and I believe I explained that here in a second. So, living himself only as the chosen one. Of course, this means he would begin to age again. To combat this, the king began killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He would search for a new successor, someone with similar morals and beliefs, and if he didn't like the person he began testing, he would just kill them off, take their souls to make him live longer. So that's sort of like Blake's original premise, but we just put it into, this king guy now. So he starts to age, but he kills off people and takes their soul, and then he essentially stays the same age because he grows younger and whatnot. The king has never found someone he thinks can fill the role as king, and he never will, because the king's standards, he wants somebody who's basically exactly the same as him, and he's just never gonna find that because there's nobody like him. So that's sort of the idea for this. He's going to keep searching. He's never going to find anybody. And at this point in time, it has been thousands of years since he first killed off his partner, because he's been living for that long. And dragons and elves are just myths. So here's a cool idea, right? You know how the 2 worlds were in conjunction? We had the king communicating with the human partner, and he was, just writing stuff. So everybody on Earth, these whole notebooks at a certain time were well known. And so, dragons and elves and things, they exist in the fantasy world, and people knew that, but as time goes on, people just forgot, and then they turned into myths and legends. So that's how we got our myths and legends. And same thing on the fantasy world, humans are like dragons to us. They're like, oh, whoa, dragons maybe used to exist back in the day, but, it was just a myth or whatnot. So that's sort of what we're going with here. The king continues to search for his perfect successor because, he's we don't know exactly what his mindset is, but we're thinking he's had his time. He's like, okay, whatever, I'm done. I just need to find the perfect person to succeed me. So that's what he's doing right now. Can the king be a control freak over another country like the King George III in Hamilton? Well, the king, we haven't really decided on this. This is just the backbones, but I'm thinking, in my view, the king is this guy who lives over the entire world, basically. So, I don't know, maybe that's just me. How the notebooks work. A chosen one has multiple perks. So the chosen one, the king, he has the notebooks. These notebooks are like the special thing. They live forever under the condition that your partner is still alive. Their notebook is infinite. You have unlimited pages. So, say for example, I'm the king and this is my notebook. I can keep turning this page forever and there will always be another page there, so there's as many pages as I need. They can travel between worlds freely, and we'll talk about that soon. They have control over all of the lost souls, and we will also talk about that. They live forever. They don't age. That's probably a better way to put it. They don't age. Okay, lost souls. Oh, here's the lost souls. Lost souls are souls who have died and had a bond at some point in time. So, for example, the king's dead partner is a lost soul because he had a bond at some point. And Niko and Luna, when they die, they will become a lost soul. And Blake, he will become a lost soul. And all the people who the king deceived will also become lost souls. Or, well, I guess they are lost souls at this time because they are dead. There are 2 different kinds of bonds. There's an original bond and a shared bond, and these are pretty cool. So, an original bond is a bond in which 2 or more people actively create a bond. So this is like they are the owners of their own bond. You create a bond by taking 2 almost identical objects, meaning same material, same size, so you would need 2 of these exact same notebooks. You can't have this notebook and then just, like, you can't have a ringed notebook and then a regular or like a composition notebook because they're not the same thing. That's sort of what that's mean. Same material and size, and doing the same motion with them. So, like how you take this out of a bookshelf, if you take this exact same, like an exact duplicate of this outside of the notebook or outside of the shelf, and you take it out at the same time between the worlds, you'll create a bond. For a bond to be created, you need at least one person from a different world. So Niko and Luna, they can't both be on Earth to create a bond. Niko has to be on Earth, Luna has to be in the fantasy world. But you can have a three-way bond. So let's say, for example, Niko, Xavier, and Luna wanted to create a three-way bond. They would just all three do the same thing, and then you would create a three-way bond. So a shared bond. A shared bond is when the creator of an original bond lends another person their bonded object. So the notebooks that Luna and Niko have are a shared bond. The king has two master notebooks, so he has two of these. You know, like the two original things that he took from his dead partner. These two master notebooks are the original bond that can't be broken. The way the king creates shared bonds is by ripping out pages of his master notebook. So the notebook he gives to people are just pages put into a new cover. This creates when he creates two extra notebooks, this creates a shared bond. Every original bond has a lobby, and I love this lobby idea. This is a room that has doors which acts as portals to every bondholder of the original bond, regardless of if it's an original bond or a shared bond. You can think of this lobby as a hotel. There's the lobby. When you check into the hotel, you're given your room and a key. Your room is the portal. In the hotel, you can visit other rooms as long as you have the right key. The chosen one's lobby has an attendant. The king has ordered a lost soul, so since the king rules over the lost souls, he can say, do this, and then the lost souls will have to. So the lost soul is there to collect tax for traveling throughout the world. This is best explained through an example. In this example, Niko is going to travel to Luna's world using his notebook, okay? That's what we're doing here. So, the key to open the portal is ripping out a page. So, if I have my notebook and I'm Niko here, I rip out a page that opens up the portal. And this portal opens up at the same spot, because this is the way that the king has ordered the attendant to run things here. So his original spot that his portal opens at is the fridge. So Niko goes through the fridge and he arrives at this lobby. Now this lobby is just a random room in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere in space. It's just like the room. Things outside of it don't exist. So he's in the lobby. There he talks to this lost soul. We don't know what the lost soul looks like. He just talks to this lost soul, and he tells the lost soul where he wants to go and for how long. The attendant then puts a price in soul shards, and then that's what he pays with. So let's say, for example, I'm Niko, and I say, hey, lost soul, how's it going? I want to go to Luna's world for 1 day. And then the attendant will be like, that'll be 1 soul shard. And then I'll be like, okay. And then, I don't know, maybe something happens, and I don't know, Niko loses a part of his soul. And then the attendant's like, okay, here's the door. And then he lets Niko through to Luna's portal. That's how that works. The king has instructed the attendant to say that when you pay with soul shards, you lose a part of your soul, but you regain it, after a couple of days, like your soul heals itself. In reality, it doesn't actually heal your soul. So the king is taking part of their souls as a test. If the pair realizes that their soul does not heal, then they pass that section of the test for figuring it out. So remember, the king's whole objective here is to find somebody who will, someone like himself to sort of take control of the world and sort of, be his successor. If not, they are automatically not worthy and eventually die because they have no souls left. So if they keep traveling, and this is how most of the past people who have tried to do this have died, is because they've just been paying the price over and over again until eventually they're at 0% of their soul. So then they die. That's how it works. So when Niko pays with his soul to travel to Luna's world, the attendant unlocks Luna's door and Niko walks through. Luna's portal location is her closet, so that's sort of like combating the fridge idea, plus we haven't really talked about how much technology Luna's world has. So, Niko just walks into her room because it's connected to the closet. That is how the lobby works. Does that make sense? Original bonds are not typically like this, okay? The king set up his lobby to take the souls. Normally, people who are bonded can travel without a price. Niko and Luna will eventually have a bond through a red bracelet. So you know that red bracelet we kept talking about? That is an original bond, but it does not cost soul shards, so they can teleport and go through the world free will. Okay, so they decide that the way to open a portal is by wishing for a portal to be open and then drawing an outline of the portal. So let's say, for example, okay, I have my red band on here. I want to open a portal. Draw a circle, then it opens a portal. That's how Luna and Niko work. Their portal works. It's a little bit different because for the king, because that's what the king decided. The king decided that the lost soul would sort of like, control where the portal opens and whatnot. When they want to open a portal, they will have complete control over where they open the portal to. They can choose to go within 10 feet of their partner, since they don't have like a designed spot like the king's portal. Or they can choose to just go to their lobby. Now this lobby is just a room with 2 doors in it. It's just an empty room with 2 doors. It is super cool. So Niko can be like, I want to go to the lobby, opens up the portal, walks through. He's just in this room. It's his safe room. Nobody can get in it unless if like Luna or Niko open it and somebody walks through it, then they can get in it. But essentially it's just their own little room that they can put stuff in and hide out in. So I think that's really cool. Or if they don't want to go there, then Niko could just be like, open up the portal, I want to go to Luna. And then he walks through, and then the portal will just be placed somewhere around Luna. And then if he doesn't know the location that Luna's in, then he doesn't really get to specify. But if he knows that Luna's in her room, then he can just say, okay, I want to go to Luna and open a portal at the closet. And then it'll just put a portal in the closet or something. So that's sort of how they open portals. They do not have a predetermined location to open their portal, so they can open it anywhere, yeah. There's no attendant, there's no price to pay. So that's the difference between Luna and Niko's original bond and the king's original bond. They don't have an attendant because the attendant is a lost soul, and since Niko and Luna aren't like the chosen ones, they don't have control over that. That is the ideal option for them, yeah. It's totally the ideal option because they can just go like this, open up a portal, they can teleport. How awesome is that? Okay, the King's Notebook is like a regular book. It has a different chapter for each shared bond. In these chapters, the King can talk to the shared bond if he pleases to. So I know I said I wouldn't be breaking this up, but this is a little bit unclear in this clip because I had to cut out this huge segment about it. Basically, the big chunk that I cut out was me going through the reasons why Blake's wife should be male, and we eventually ended up on the conclusion that him being a male would be a better thing for the story. So I just cut that out. So basically, just going into this, know that Blake's wife is actually a male. So that's what you need to keep in mind for this. Okay, Blake and his wife. The King's most recent attempt at finding a new successor is Blake and his wife. That was his most recent attempt at finding a new successor. So the King has a chapter for Blake and his wife. Boom. Oh yeah, so we want to make his we want to make Blake's wife male. And there's a reason for that. Well, actually, there's a lot of reasons. So Blake, I think we said bi, I think. Blake's significant other is just going to be called wife. Because that's how it's been this entire time. When we were brainstorming this, we've always referred to him as the wife. Okay. So, Blake was a knight in the fantasy world, and the king thought that he might make a good successor because the king was like, here's this good knight. He might make a good successor. So, he gave Blake a notebook. He also gave a random person on Earth a notebook because he was going to kill him off anyway. So it doesn't really matter who he gave it to, he just specified for a male. Blake and his wife end up falling in love. As a final test, the king takes the wife's soul, and Blake is furious, but he doesn't know about the king. The king communicates to them as if he is the attendant, which makes Blake believe everything has to do with the attendant. So basically, the king is like, I am an attendant. You meet me every time you open up the portal. So, Blake is like, if I take out that lost soul attendant, he doesn't know it's a lost soul. Blake just is like, if I take out that attendant, then I win. So that is what is in his mind right now. He has no idea that there's a king. If Blake is a knight, shouldn't he know about the king? He knows about the king, but he doesn't know that the king is the one with the notebooks. After Blake learns that his wife's soul is taken, the king explains how without a body, the soul becomes a lost soul. So the king is just writing in his notebook explaining all this to Blake. Blake is not sure it will work, but if he rips the notebook inside of the lobby, maybe his soul will get split. He just has this random idea that like, oh, it's worth a shot. So he travels to the lobby, he rips out a page, goes to the lobby, and then he's just like, haha, attendant, I'm gonna take you out with me. And then he rips the page, or the whole notebook in half. The result of this is exactly what Blake wanted. Half of his soul was still in his original body and was put back into his fantasy world. And the other half of his soul is now inside of his wife's body. That's sort of like, instead of him just standing in the middle of the portal, he's just in the lobby, it's essentially the same thing. Since Blake's wife's body is still alive, the wife's soul still has a natural urge to go back to it. So, like a rubber band. Let's say for a rubber band, right? I'm holding the rubber band in one point, right? And I stretch it. If I let go here, the rubber band flings back to this initial point. Okay, that's exactly what the soul is. This hand's Blake, I'm stretching it. Blake has his wife's soul here. But since this is still a thing, if Blake lets go, the wife goes back here. That's how it works. Okay, is that good? So the soul will never fully become lost until the body is completely dead. Blake is now in an interesting situation. He has two bodies and one full notebook, his wife's, and he has two halved notebooks. One on Earth and one on the fantasy world. Well, actually two on Earth. There should be two on Earth. And one on the fantasy world. One half on the fantasy world, but he still believes that the attendant has the wife's soul, but he can't go back to the lobby because his soul is split in half. So that's the rule. You can't go into the lobby if your soul is split in half and it's on both sides of the world. So he needs a way to get more info and save him. Save the wife. At this point, the king does not know what will happen with the notebooks. He still believes there are two out in circulation. So the king still is like, oh, well, I gave out two notebooks, one to the fantasy world person, one to, the earth person. So he's just like, okay, well, those are probably out still in circulation or whatnot. He doesn't really know. So he doesn't know that they were split. So for Blake to get more info and save his wife, he needs to find two worthy people to give the notebooks to. He decides on Luna and Niko, both of which are his students. So that makes sense there. He sews each half to a random notebook to create two full notebooks. Now Blake has 3 completed notebooks. So basically Blake is like, hey, Niko. Well, he doesn't say, hey, Niko, here's a notebook. He just sort of like gives the notebook, like he hides the notebook into his house or something. Same with Luna. Something, we haven't really figured that out. Okay, so that was all for the Blake section. There's obviously more that we can come up with and stuff. That was just a base description. Again, all of this is just base description stuff, so we will be adding to all of this with time. But now we're moving on to the Luna and Niko section, and then finally we have the magic section. Yay. So Blake gives one notebook to Luna and Niko. He gives one to both Luna and Niko, and keeps the wife's notebook for himself. So he keeps like the original whole notebook for himself. The king at this point still does not realize that the notebooks have been passed down. He will eventually find out though. When he does, he sees it as an opportunity. So how will the king find out if he's not traveling to Earth? The chapters. Whoa. So close to the back here, there's gonna be a new chapter for Luna and Niko. What? That's how the king finds out. So we can see everything that they're writing down. Pretty cool, right? Same with Blake. Blake can also see. Where was I? Oh yeah, he will eventually find out though. When he does, he sees it as an opportunity. He sees potential in Luna. So he keeps on observing. So he doesn't say anything, he's just like, this is interesting. This has never happened before, so I want to see where this goes. Eventually, we get to the point to where Luna and Niko decide to side with the king. There's a whole bunch of empty space there that we have to fill, but we're just time skipping here for a second. Yeah, they side with the king, and then they think that Blake is actually the bad guy. The king makes them to believe that Blake is bad, so the king is like, oh, but Blake does this, and this, and this, and it's all bad and whatnot. And then they're like, oh man, Blake, how could you do this? So that's sort of what happens there. They eventually learn the truth about Blake, another time skip, and then they team up against the king. So now it's Blake and Luna and Niko versus the king. Whoa, epic battle finale kind of thing. Okay. The way to free Blake's wife is by freeing his soul from the king. So basically they have to just, somehow free it. I don't know how, but that'll be something. And since the body is still alive, just inhabited by half a soul, it goes back to the original body and kicks Blake's soul out to make Blake's soul whole again, you have to combine, so you have to tear apart the two notebooks that Blake tore apart. You know how Blake ripped the notebooks, right? You have to just take those two halves, put them back together, and then Blake's soul becomes whole again. Yay! Any species in the fantasy world can use magic, but they have to learn how to first, obviously. You can't just be like, oh, I want a lightning spell, and boom, lightning spell. You have to learn how to. And it's like you can't just learn it and be like, oh, I'm the master. You have to start off small and whatnot. So it's like you would expect to learn things. We haven't decided on the details, but we want a certain number of classes of magic. So, for example, there are 5 classes: fire, water, air, ground, and space. And Luna's obviously the space one. But there could be more. There could be 10, where there could be moon, sun, earth, water, fire, etc. We haven't really decided, but that's something that we can come up with in the magic stream. Each of these classes should have a certain number of spells. So for example, 5 spells. So let's say, for example, I'm a fire wielder and I'm Niko, right? Well, maybe saying I'm Niko is a bad example. We'll get to that here in a second. So if I'm a fire wielder, I could do fireball and cast that spell, and maybe that's a level 1 spell. But then there's also 5 other spells. So it's there could be 10 different spells that each class has, but I have to pick from one of those 5 or 10 spells. That is sort of how we make this not super OP. And it can't just be oh, I feel like doing a volcano strike out of nowhere, and then people are whoa, that's brand new. Nobody knows that, except for we might do that with something like human. I don't know, we'll see. Each of these spells has a rank. The higher the rank, the more mana it takes up. Mana is just your soul. So casting magic costs a bit of your soul. You use a bit of your soul to cast magic, but the soul heals. So if I cast Fireball, let's say it uses up 5 points of mana. So that's maybe 0.5% of my soul. Over time, I will regain that part of my soul. So, you can be running out of your soul. So if you do Fireball 10 billion times, right, and you have 1 Fireball left of your soul that you can cast, you can die. If I only have 0.5% of my mana left and I cast Fireball, then I'll die. That's how it'll work. Or if you're just running low, if I'm that low on magic, I'm not going to want to do it. So after a few days, I'll be all good to go because my mana is regenerated. Yeah, mana is just a general gaming term. We could come up with something cooler. That's just the easiest way to explain it. There are certain conditions that make each class stronger. For example, if a fire class was next to fire, they would be stronger than if they were in water, for example. And that sort of ties into Luna. She is a space or maybe a moon kind of magic wielder. So if the moon is a full moon, she is stronger than if it's a new moon, for example. All species have the same set of classes they can learn. They can learn any class, but it will be almost impossible to learn more than one. The easiest class to learn is the classes passed down by their parents. Going outside is doable, but difficult. Humans can learn magic as well. They can't do magic on Earth, but they can learn to do magic in the fantasy world. Since they have no history with magic, they are a blank slate. This means they have an equal shot at learning any class of magic. If parents specialized in different magic, do they have an equal shot at both types? So, say for example, the mother was a fire and then the father was a water. I would say that they have, I guess it might depend on the parent's skill level. So say for example, their fire level, they could perform 2 levels of magic, whereas the water could only perform 1. It would be easier to learn the fire, but it would still be easier to learn water than it would be ground, for example. So Blake's wife can learn any class potentially, yes. He can learn any class of magic. The way you perform magic is with symbols. To perform a spell, you draw a certain symbol in the air while actively wanting to cast the spell. So let's say, for example, I am a weather magic, right? And I want to perform lightning bolt. So then I go like, I just draw a lightning bolt in the air or something. Whatever the symbol for summoning a lightning bolt is for that class, you just do that symbol and then you're like lightning bolt and then boom, it casts a lightning bolt or something. I don't know. That's just sort of this idea. So you have to draw the symbol and you have to actively want to cast a spell. Exactly the same way that opening portals work. I want to open a portal, draw the portal. I want to cast a spell, draw the spell. Boom. Same way. Continuity. Let's say, for example, you want to summon a fireball that you would throw. You would do the magic symbol for fireball. So let's just say it was yeah? And then you actively want to cast a fireball. So once you do that, the fireball appears in your hand, and then you can throw it like a normal snowball or something. Now, magic cannot backfire on the caster, because it is in fact their own soul. So, I'm holding this ball of fire, but since I'm the caster and it's using my own soul, it's my body and my soul recognizes, oh, well, I made this thing, it's my own soul, it shouldn't affect me. So it doesn't affect you. Plus, if I throw this fireball and somehow it ricochets back and hits me, I'll still be fine. Like, sure, if it's like a ball and it hits me, like, it'll be like a snowball hitting me. It'll be like, oh, I got hit by a ball, but it's not like I'd be caught on fire. However, if I throw the fireball into a wooden building and the wooden building catches on fire, the fire spreads from the ball to the building, which then means that I could still be caught on fire from the building because the fire from the building just extended off from the fireball. Like if I went in there, stomped on the fireball, I'd be fine, but I would still be hurt from the building on fire. So, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. If you have two different fire users and they're going up in a duel and they both have fireballs, they can be hurt by their own fireballs because it was made with their own soul. So like if I was hit by another person's fireball, I would be hurt since they made it with their soul and now it's on me. So that's how it works. Okay, now to the really cool part. When you are bonded to someone, you can use their magic, and I think this is so awesome. For example, if Niko learns fire magic, Luna can cast Niko's fire spells. How cool is that? Same thing goes for Niko. Niko can cast Luna's spells. What? That's so cool. Okay. Okay. If the person, so let's say for example, Niko knows how to summon a fireball, and that's it. That's all he knows. That is the only thing that Luna can do. Even if Luna knows the symbols and knows how to like, has the accurate mana and whatnot, she can't do it because Niko has not learned how to do that yet. And casting it takes from the other person's soul. So if Luna is trying to cast Niko's fireball, it will take it from Niko's soul, but obviously Niko's soul will regenerate. So it's just like a, you know, it's just like Niko performing it, but it's Luna, which is really cool because let's say, for example, I am the king and I'm laying on the ground, you know, Niko has me pinned down, but then I'm like, oh, just kidding, and then I flip around and Niko gets captured and I have him down on the ground and I'm tying him up, right? And then he's like, haha, fire is my weakness. Niko, what are you gonna do? And then Luna comes from behind, oh yeah? Well, guess what? Take this fireball, and throws the fireball, and it's like, what? Niko, you were down and something. So I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, of course, their soul heal, and so there's no real loss to this. Benefits of the bond, love that. The ability is not shared through the shared bond, it's only the original bond. Remember these two different kinds of bonds? You have to have an original bond to share the magic. So, for example, Blake and his wife, since they only have a shared bond, I don't think you'd be able to do that. Because if you could do this, then like if the king knows magic, Blake could use the king's magic and vice versa. Or maybe the king can use Blake's magic or Luna's magic because they had a shared bond, but Blake could not use the king's magic. So I don't know, we'll just have to talk about that. We'll talk about that later in the magic thing. So that's it. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you did enjoy it, you can leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this. As always, try to catch the streams every Sunday, 1:30 p.m. EST. You don't want to miss it. And yeah, if you enjoyed, I guess I already said that. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.